somebody else.
Anti-abortion protesters have become an intimidating subculture of American society. Since 1991, these professional anti-abortion protesters have embraced not only a hatred for women's reproductive freedoms, but also espoused their hatred for homosexuals and Jews.
Kind of like a cult, this thing is where you fit in with somebody, and I think maybe a lot of them just kind of found a group to fit in with, but I don't think they realize that a lot of times they hurt their own cause by being out there. Because some people who can actually see through the pro-life, pro-choice realize these people are harassing medical patients, or when they bring out their signs with the bloody pictures on, that turns more people off. Even, I mean, people who are pro-life don't understand that. So I think when they're out there, they're hurting their cause more than they're helping it. Some of them are out there. One of them, it's a full-time job. He actually gets paid to be out there through either Operation Rescue or Operation Save America. So he's a professional protester.
While there are very sincere protesters within the anti-abortion movement, the more extreme element is in control.
Shun the sin of abortion. Just understand that God's solution to the Nazi.
Backgrounds of individual protesters often reveal associations with other groups like the Army of God. Members of this group have been responsible for the shooting and deaths of doctors and staff, most notably in the women's clinic in Birmingham, Alabama. There, a police officer was killed, and Emily Lyons, a clinic nurse, was critically injured and now lives with constant pain and disabilities from this domestic terrorist act. At Dr. Tiller's clinic, only 3 feet of space separates the clinic property from the public sidewalk. As long as protesters remain on the public sidewalk, they are not in violation of any law. However, this innocuous law creates trouble every day for clinic defense workers. Pro-protesters are not to block the entrance of the gate of the clinic. They share the same public sidewalk with clinic defense workers who must get patients through.
There's just such a fine line. You can't block the driveway, but as long as you're moving your feet, you're okay. So you can stand there and shuffle in the middle of the driveway when someone wants in, but I'm moving.
Anti-abortion organizations have bought up properties next to the pro-choice clinics. Protesters attempt to confuse, coerce, and reroute patients to their own clinics.
When they do that, the patients they usually get like that are non-English speaking. So they use confusion a lot in their tactics to pull people away.
Central Women's Services is especially vulnerable to this tactic since both buildings stand a mere 10 feet apart.
Our lot is our lot, but it goes to the alley. It's adjacent to the alley, so therefore they can stand toe-to-toe to our parking lot, our security, our patients.
During peak protest events, pro-choice and anti-abortion protesters are literally on top of each other. The lack of uniformity by the police to enforce the laws against the protesters, and the ambiguity of what is a violation one day but not the next, weakens clinic defense strategies. The lack of law enforcement encourages protesters to act out even more.
If they see someone doing something wrong, they will go talk to him, but that's it. It's just a bunch of warnings.
It's very hard in this city to get them arrested. There's quite a few statutes and ordinances that apply to medical facilities, but regular businesses, there's not very much. There's disturbing the peace. There's a noise ordinance, which really doesn't say anything, so it's up to the officer whether or not that's been violated.
With no clear set of rules, protesters have the upper hand. Police officers admit that each day presents a new challenge, and arrests are based upon the discretion of the officer.
I'm not out here to put them in jail, throw the book at them or anything. I want them to know that these are the rules, this is what you can't do. I want everybody to obey the rules and be happy.
It is very difficult of an officer to stay neutral and objective at all times. We have to stay in the middle, be fair to both sides. There are days when it is very frustrating and certain people really know how to push your buttons. A safe distance between protesters and clinic defense workers would diffuse the potential for danger and violence. Under the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances, otherwise known as the FACE Act, city officials could take certain action to reduce the shoving, name-calling, and in-your-face confrontations that occur. The FACE Act protects the right for protesters to continue to have a presence, but not be in such close proximity that they restrict and harass women who have the legal right to enter freely without intimidation. Despite this federally mandated protection, the city of Wichita has failed to comply with the spirit and practical implementations of the law.
These patients, first of all, don't know where they're going. They're going to open up their window because they think somebody's being helpful, and then they just sometimes jump into the back. One time, jumped into the back of somebody's car with them, and people had to tell her to get out.
The law giving women the right to abortion will continue to be under siege, protected only by gutsy grandmothers, college students, and homemakers if officials continue to promote the rights of protesters above the federal law. Judge Kelly experienced this same flaunting of the law. The pattern was set in 1991 by city officials, and the code of silence in aiding and abetting the protesters continues today. The city must take a proactive stance to reduce the fear and intimidation that is allowed to fester on a daily basis around the clinics by enacting the following measures. The actions of Operation Rescue in 1991 left a terrible legacy on the city of Wichita. The costs to defend the clinics were enormous, amounting to almost $500,000. The city declined to provide the figures of what it costs today to defend the clinics against protesters. The harassment of women seeking reproductive services will continue unless citizens of Wichita elect and hold accountable public officials who will uphold the laws protecting a woman's right to reproductive choice. Anti-abortion proponents are well aware that a woman's right to be a full citizen in society is directly tied to her reproductive choices or limitations.
You get really angry the first few times when you're first realizing that these people don't think women should have any rights.
Everybody gets in a situation that they can't control sometimes, and all I've ever wanted to do is help people, and these women deserve our help.
They wouldn't be able to do the things that they do if they had human compassion for these women.
Federal law has dictated a woman has the legal right to abortion. Until this law is properly upheld, dignity and freedom for women as full citizens in America remains in jeopardy.